Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are on the August 1989 WWF the Magazine. So the last one we did was June. So unfortunately, I don't have July 1989. That's fine. I didn't look it up, so I'm not really sure who is on the July 89 cover, but that should be a relatively easy look up. So, as I always say, pretty much any of your tag teams on the cover, whether they're Demolition, Legion of Doom, Heart Foundation, of course, Heart Foundation most definitely. Rockers are generally, pretty expensive magazines. So, those sort of tag teams, yeah. If you're a collector, you're probably looking at the $30, $35, sometimes $40 range for those magazines. Some of the more general basic magazines, you might pick them up for around $10, $15 a piece. Now, if you want something like, mid 80s, Andre the Giant, something like that, Hulk Hogan, early 84-ish, you're probably in the $50 range or higher, 75. But yeah, tag team magazines are usually pretty hefty in price. So if you are interested in getting into the magazine collecting, tag teams are usually a little bit more pricier. So, Rockers, I still classify Legion of Doom as being one of my all-time favorite, as being my number one all-time favorite tag team. But I don't know, man. Like when I think back, the Rockers have to be my it tag team, right? I mean, these guys are in like every major sporting event, WrestleMania, Survivor Series, Royal Rumbles. I mean, they just highlight everything. They're just everywhere, and they're always victorious because they are what you identify as a legitimate tag team. Tagging in and out. They're not in there showboating for 20 minutes, tagging a partner who comes in for a minute and a half, tags back in to the other partner who's in there for another 20 minutes. No, they're in and out, showing both the level of skill from both members of the team. It's incredible to see them work in conjunction with one another. And their breakup was heartbreaking. It was gut wrenching. So August of '89, about approximately a year or so later, a little more than a year later, these guys would actually sort of go on to win the titles from the Heart Foundation. Now, that was a non-televised sporting event, so in WWF lore, that is not normally a recognized title. The Heart Foundation didn't actually lose the tag team titles to the Rockers that day. What was it? I want to say October 1990. And where the heck was that? I know it was in Indiana. Was it Fort Wayne? I want to say Fort Wayne, Indiana. That sounds about right. Could be wrong, but anyways, you would think someone like the Heart Foundation and the Rockers, I mean, they would have an awesome feud. I mean, Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart would have a legendary feud, it seems like, throughout the most of the early and mid-90s. And freaking Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, I mean, all the way up to the Montreal Screwjob in the latter half of the 90s. Even to this day, did they legitimately hate each other, or was that just for show? I mean, even in interviews, you kind of get the opinion from Bret Hart that, yeah, like the feud was real. Like he despised, like he did not have any love for Shawn Michaels whatsoever. But then sometimes you hear him talk, it's like, well, he had a lot of mad love and respect for him. So it's like, I don't freaking know, man. This video game right here, the WrestleFest arcade game. I don't want this video game for like Sega Genesis, Nintendo, Super Nintendo. I want the actual stand-up arcade game. The same video game that you had at like Pizza Hut. This is my holy grail of video games. And I would play the hell out of this on a consistent basis. I mean, even the freaking graphics were amazing. Incredible. And then just not even 2 years later, January 1992. Yeah, 92. So about a month or so, about a month before my 7th birthday, the event. And when we're talking about the Rockers, everybody knows what the event is. During the barbershop segment, you know, Marty and Shawn Michaels, they have their little makeup scene. And then Shawn Michaels turns on him, gives him sweet chin music, sends him flying through the window. Bobby Heenan, oh my God, what a douche. Bobby Heenan was such a douche, but oh my God, was that hilarious. Marty Jannetty's such a coward. He tried flying through the window to get away. Oh God. Bobby Heenan was freaking hilarious. Oh my God. Like, you may have hated Bobby Heenan as a bad guy, but oh my God, that guy was brilliant. He will never not be brilliant. But like I said, man, I wasn't even 7 years old yet the first time I saw that. And, you know, when you're that age, you still think wrestling is real. At the very least, you want wrestling to be real. I mean, heck, even later on, when I'm 9 years old, 10, 11, 12 years old, you know wrestling is not real. You know it's staged. You know, you're not really hurting each other and everything, right? But whenever anyone's making the arguments that, you know, wrestling is fake, you know, you're always trying to combat it. You're always trying to fight them on it. Like, no, it's real, because you're a fan of the sport. You're a fan of the show, and you're trying to protect it or whatever. So it's like back in sophomore year of high school, one of my classmates in geometry was like, you know, Friends is like the greatest show ever. And I'm like, nah, man, you're crazy. You know, Buffy the Vampire Slayer is the greatest show ever. And he tried to rub in my face that Buffy gets like 1 million views an episode. And, you know, Friends gets like 25 million views an episode. I'm like, well, dude, that's horrible. That's a horrible example. I'm like, Friends airs on NBC. Okay. And you could be in the caves of Afghanistan and you will have access to NBC. 7 billion people on the planet at the time. Okay. That means if 25 million out of 7 billion people, because yes, everyone on the planet has access to NBC. 25 million out of 7 billion people watch Friends. That's not exactly good numbers, but the WB is regional. Not everybody has access to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So maybe 5 or 10 million people have access to Buffy, to that particular network. So if 1 million people watch it, by the numbers, it's a much greater reach, much better show by the numbers. So, you know, his example, you know, this has more viewers. Ridiculous. But I love those conversations, man. You know, I love talking TV shows back in the day and kind of having those kind of arguments and just those discussions, those debates. Oh, for you guys that don't know, Big Rubber Guys, they are coming out with Series 12 Demolition. They are going to include both the second release of Axe and Smash, but they are coming out with the new Brian Clark. Brian Clark or Brian Adams, damn it. think it's Bryan Adams. Damn. Excuse my language, dude. Shoot. Why do I always get him mixed up with Adam Bomb? I think it's Bryan Adams. Bryan Adams' crush. Brian Clark is Adam Bomb. So they are coming out with the Big Rubber Guys 3 set, which is pretty awesome. I know I'm doing a lot of talking and not really focusing on the pictures or the action that's going on in the photograph. That's fine. I think a lot of people just like to hear me chat. And people who are probably just watching my video for the first time or probably just want me to shut the heck up. Sorry. Yeah, but basically this is Owadi's channel review video. This is how we do it here. This is freaking awesome. So this is pretty amazing. I've talked about this in the past when, right up there, guys. That Latuni figure, Macho Man, with the white trunks and, white and gray trunks. Yeah, I'm trying to give you the best view. There we go. With the stars, right? So, that Macho Man from Latuni. So, that is based on this matchup right here. SummerSlam 89, that featured Zeus teaming up with Macho Man against Brutus Beefcake and Hulk Hogan. So, 89, obviously, you saw a lot of Tiny Lister Zeus in WWF in 89 because Rip Thomas, aka Hulk Hogan, or Hulk Hogan, aka Rip Thomas, from the movie, you saw, them promoting No Holds Barred in 89. So you saw a lot of Hogan versus Zeus matches, Survivor Series, SummerSlam, etc. So that was always pretty awesome. Zeus, he dominated in the movie, he dominated in the matches, and he wasn't always, always in the matches, long tenured. He'd be disqualified or something, and that would be the end of him in the matchup. But this is pretty awesome to have, this right here as a reference point for that particular figure from Latuni. And this is an awesome poster. I love this a lot. And you guys know that the Zeus from Ram Treasures, one of my all-time favorite LJN figures, probably one of my top 5 all-time favorites ever. So, alright. I think I've seen this Warrior jacket on eBay before. What was this going for back in the day? Around $45 for the jacket. For a jacket, that ain't bad. Unless it's like a really small windbreaker or something. Because from here, it kind of looks like a sort of thicker leather type jacket. But for $45, that can't be the case. Polyester outer shell. Yeah, I think it's just like a windbreaker or something, but... $18 for this bear. Found a couple of these bears on eBay. One was missing a boot. The other one was missing the black nose. And I'm like, I want it only because it was in the catalog. But that was about it. Otherwise, I really don't have usage for stuffed animals. Not big on clothing, so I don't really collect clothes like that. Yep, I got a couple honky-tonk customs like that. The rockers. The rockers sing. The Rougeaus are gonna roll. You know, it would have been pretty awesome if when the Big Rubber Guys, when they came out with their Marty Jannetty with this outfit, if they actually add like a purple cloth shirt to go with it. I mean, they did an amazing job with the pants, right? And but he was just bare-chested, you know, no built-on shirt, no cloth, removable cloth shirt or anything. It would have been nice if they had something additional for him. Rugged Rough. Who is that, Ronnie Garvin? Duggan is king. He takes the crown from Haku. Way to go, Jimbo. You know, for a man that really didn't have like any type of title runs, you know, Jim Duggan had like some real big success in the late 80s. You know, first Royal Rumble champion in 88, King of the Ring in 89. I mean, that's, to me, is some pretty solid success right there to add to his resume. And I think he was battling Shawn Michaels in the 90s for like Intercontinental title and whatnot. I mean, he never won anything, but I mean, he still was in contention, you know? So, you know, he does have some accolades under his belt. Alrighty. And this magazine is almost kaput. The Weasel Goes West. Just got a few more pages and we are finished. Just gonna get through these real quick. I mean, it was a decent magazine, not bad. Uh-oh. Some Lonnie Paffo. Well, that was August 1989. And that was it. It was okay mag. I mean, like I said, it was an average magazine. And I didn't exactly read this front stuff in the beginning, but in this issue, a Wild West Weasel and American Dream arrives and the Snake is profiled. The Rockers, Sean and Marty, ready to rock the Rougeaus. SummerSlam's coming. Hulk and Zeus prepare for confrontation. King Hacksaw, the tough guy, takes the throne. Ronnie Garvin, yeah, that was Ronnie. The Rugged Rough, Rouse Valentine. Yeah. I like that. Cool. Well, that is it for this video, guys. Another one in the books. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week for the next magazine review. Take care, everybody.